14 games on this match day 3. Lots more to discuss. Hanging out with us still, Kaylin Carr. And now joining us is the Armchair Analyst Matt Doyle. And joining us as well, making his This Is MLS debut, Danny Higginbotham, MLS Season Pass Analyst and former Premier League defender. Danny, how was opening weekend in Ohio?
Only problem with spending about 4 hours with Steve Cangelosi is, so not something I'll be wanting to do again. I might drive on my own, but no, it was brilliant, a great experience to do Cincinnati, obviously support Shield winners and Columbus as well. Season of the games they've got.
I mean, it's also the way that they play, right? And Cincinnati's superpower last year wasn't just Lucho Acosta, who was deservedly the MVP, and it wasn't just that forward pairing who were so good. Brandon Vasquez, of course, one of the 5 starters from last year who's no longer in Cincinnati. It was Barreal, man. It was Barreal. Like, we had him to best 11 on extra time because his ability as a wingback to get forward and not just add to the attack, but add to the attack as an auxiliary number 10. That protected Lucho from having games where he's targeted, from having games where if he just doesn't quite have it, there was always a secondary playmaker there. And look, they went out and they spent on Luca Oriano. He struggled in his first week. He wasn't able to hit the last pass consistently. He didn't beat anybody off the dribble. It is a huge ask to go from a best 11 player with demand across the world, because that's the type of guy Barreal was, to a 22-year-old coming in trying to learn a new position in a new system. So when they had to replace 4 guys, right, when it was Arias and Moreno and Jerson Mosquera and Brandon Vasquez, I was like, okay, I can see your point, Kaylin. Maybe they have gotten better. But you add that 5th, I mean, that's basically half the team, and especially that keystone piece, it's too much. Maybe they get there by the end of the season, but it's going to be a tough start for Cincinnati, and I think we already saw that in week 1.
Okay, one thing to note, Jill, because you did call me out here.
I complimented you, and Danny agreed with you.
Which is fair.
I did agree.
I said leveled up, but I didn't know at the time that Barreal was going to be moved on. And Danny, I appreciate you being kind to me. But I didn't know at the time as well that Bupenza was going to be on a minutes limitation. I knew Miazga was going to take some time.
There's a lot that Kaylin doesn't know. There's a lot that Kaylin doesn't know, apparently.
I do have some concerns, especially with Barreal. I think he is that important to the side.
Danny agreed with you, so I was calling you out and complimenting you. I'd like to point that out.
One more point. There was only one team in the league last year that had 2 of the top 10 chance creators in MLS. It was FC Cincinnati with Lucho Acosta and Alvaro Barreal, and he was the only one of the top 10 chance creators who was not a number 10. That tells you the type of player he is. It's tough to replace that man.
Kaylin, you mentioned Toronto playing Bernadeschi differently and how well that seemed to work for them in that 0-0 draw to Cincinnati. Danny, how much can Toronto be the surprise team of 2024?
If they continue the way that they started at the weekend against Cincinnati, then I think they could be. I was fortunate, I spoke to John Herdman, had a really good conversation with him. This was on the side.
FC manager Nick Cushing coming off of Doyle, what was a really disappointing 1-0 loss to Charlotte over the weekend. They missed the playoffs last year. How much pressure do you think Cushing's feeling right now?
I think he's got to be feeling a lot. And from what I heard from sources around the team, there was actually a split amongst the decision makers there on Nick Cushing's status in the middle of last year. Some wanted him out, and some said, no, you know what, we dealt him a bad hand by not giving him a complete roster to enter the 2023 season. We got to see out this year and see what he can do with that roster. They ended last season, I think, in pretty good form, and there was a lot of hope heading into this season. They have spent $25 million over the past two transfer windows. That is a budget. And they came out in week one. They were not ready. They were not ready. They got absolutely hammered by this Charlotte team who, I mean, frankly, they were lucky it was only 1-0. So I think the pressure is going to be on pretty quick. And one thing to keep an eye on, Ronnie Doyle, the former manager of NYCFC, who, of course, won the 2021 MLS Cup with this team, he is under some pressure of his own with Club Brugge over in Belgium. He could be on the hot seat there. So if suddenly he's available and if suddenly Nick Cushing can't put some wins together, I mean, what do you think, Kaylin? Maybe this goes bad.
I don't know. I mean, the big thing that I think is missing for me right now is the profile of players that they've brought in. And for me, they're trying to press City Football Group has been able to acquire. It's not the finished article. It's not the final product.
But that's
why I'm giving him a little more time.
But that's the point, right? In his 18 months at the helm, he has not developed any of these great young players that I think 28 other MLS head coaches would say, absolutely, give me that guy. I could get more out of him. That hasn't happened yet with Nick Cushing. And as for pressing, pressing is intrinsic to the City Football Group system. We don't talk about it as much as we do with Red Bulls because it's the only thing the Red Bulls do. But with CFG, it is part of how they play, from Pep at Man City all the way down to NYCFC and points beyond. So he has to get these two things right. He has to make sure they can press without leaving themselves exposed, and he has to make sure that these young players get better, because otherwise, I mean, that's the job, man. That is really the job for Nick Cushing.
Is it just me, or is when Ronnie Doyle is mentioned, the first thing that comes to mind is the infamous 2021 MLS Cup Championship celebration? I'm just saying, how much of that responsibility, though, that these two are debating, Danny, is on Cushing?
Yeah, there's obviously a lot. You know, you hear obviously with Kaylin, with Matt, and the way that they're talking. The biggest thing is there's no identity. That's what there has to be. You know, you used to see in NYCFC when they won MLS Cup.
Some of the context and who is missing. No Reynoso, no Hlangwane, and no manager. I mean, I have seen a lot.
Minor details.
Eric Ramsey was announced yesterday from Manchester United, coming over, now the youngest manager by far in MLS, I believe MLS history, at 32 years old. Although, I don't know, maybe some of those young guys like Benny Olsen or some of those guys when they walked off the pitch, I'm not sure. But still, it's young, it's inexperienced, but you have to give a lot of credit to this Minnesota team to go on the road. Yes, I know Austin, not in a good place, but big performance from on week one.
Columbus gets the victory in the first week. The reigning champions, are they the clear favorite for you still, Matt?
I think so. I think they sort of underlined everything that they were good at last year in that performance against Atlanta. Now, they didn't score multiple goals. This was only the first time ever in Wilfred Nancy's tenure that they've won an MLS game 1-0. But I think he likes that, because that's where they needed to improve from last year. As great as they are going forward, they need to improve defensively, and we saw it in the Atlanta United series in the first round of the playoffs last year. Atlanta United, they had Thiago Almada for 2 of the 3 games. They scored 6 goals over their 2 games. So to be the team that can still dominate the ball, and you know they're still going to score, and they generated tons of chances, including that penalty that was saved, and then throw a shutout on top of it, like, it's right now, I think it's Columbus and it's the rest of the league looking up at them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I love Wilfred Nancy. He's such a great coach.
underdog for 2024. Doyle, what do you need to see from the Whitecaps?
I don't think this is going to be a hot take, but I think we need to see more top-end quality because they've already proved that they're competent, but every time they get a chance to go against the best in the region, I'm talking Tigres last week, and I'm talking Tigres last year in the Leagues Cup, and I'm talking LAFC in the playoffs, they do not have the top-end talent to hang with those teams. So I expect to see some competence, but I don't think after the offseason they just had, in which they didn't add any big pieces, I don't think you can really expect more than that from this Vancouver team.
Sasha, Kaylin, can I get your thumbs up or your thumbs down?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Vancouver, the only team fans have yet to see who had a bye in
Everybody agrees
opening
with
week.
Doyle.
Right, don't get
That's
too-
what the segment is.
Agree with Doyle. Dallas taking on Montreal. Dallas coming off of a buzzer beater win, 94th minute from Dante Sealy. What are your thoughts on Dallas?
This is me again. All right. I thought Dallas, considering that they were without 5 starters, including all 3 DPs, they got a good performance from that man right there, Asir Yaramendi, with this golazo. I thought they got a great contribution at the end from Dante Sealy. And it was fun to see the vibes from this team, including Yaramendi after the game getting to wear the big dumb hat.
Are you gonna walk this back? I mean, social media is going crazy right now, Doyle, about this big dumb hat comment. As a fellow Texan,
Rude.
honorary Texan, although from Houston, or spent some time there. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, first of all, it's a big hat. It's bigger than I thought. All glory to the big dumb hat. I mean, we have to give it to Dallas. Doing this without 3 DPs, all glory to the big dumb hat.
Are we giving all the glory to Dallas?
I'm giving Dallas social media the thumbs up. That's
Sasha?
respect for that.
Thumbs up for Dallas, thumb down for cowboy hats.
Flip side, Montreal coming off of a 0-0 draw to Orlando. A draw that probably felt like a win for Montreal. Sasha, what do you think?
I liked what I saw, the way they started the game.
Can't argue with that. I mean, it's just too good a point, Sasha.
right.
You're too good at this.
Thumbs up. Sporting Kansas City taking on Philadelphia SKC. Fresh off of a 1-1 draw to your former side, the Houston Dynamo. Kaylin, thoughts on SKC?
Well, I just want to see this year where you have to circle this one early on and say, we have to take this opportunity at home to get off on the right foot.
I mean, kind of true, but like, the West is weaker this year. They could lose 11 to start the season. I think they'll still be okay in the West because that's the type of conference that it is year over year.
Well, they'll be going up against a Union side that's had a crazy week. They went into extra time. They had to play 30 minutes down a man in CONCACAF Champions Cup, winning against Saprissa. Now they go to Children's Mercy Park. Sasha, question, what do you need to see from the Philadelphia Union?
I don't know what I need to see to put that pressure on themselves, so I love it. And I also want to talk about Quinn Sullivan, who has been the revelation of the season so far. I know it's only been 3 games, but he has looked fantastic for this Philadelphia Union. I talked to Jim Curtin about Quinn Sullivan.
Going thumbs up. Anytime we can get a Jimmy C quote in there, thumbs up for
and
me.
Quinn Sullivan as well. Love his game.
Colorado Rapids couldn't be more disappointed with their performance. Chris Armas, not the debut that he wanted. A 4-1 loss to Portland. Will they turn it around against Nashville? Doyle.
I think they will, because I think it was some very clear errors that were made in this game against Portland, and mostly around pressing triggers. And look, you guys have both been around Chris Armas. You know he could run a drill. You know he could make his intentions to his teammates, in your case, or his mentors, or his mentees, rather. He can make himself clear in those situations. So I expect them to turn around immediately after this disaster that they had on the road. They come back home. They're at a mile high, and they should be able to run Nashville into the ground.
Colorado turn it around?
Pains me to do it.
Okay, they don't. So you're saying
Take a stand, Sasha. Get off the fence.
He can't do it. He can't do it.
Yeah,
he's lost service. Right.
Obviously.
Right. Okay.
All right, well, Sasha loses. Nashville SC 0-0 to the New York Red Bulls. No Sam Surridge, no Hani Mukhtar, both missing opening weekend. How do you think this is going to go for Nashville?
Well, it's been difficult for Nashville because this is the wing back options in Major League Soccer. So I think if you're looking for a bounce back game, this is a really good one on the schedule for Nashville to try to target going on the road. Although going to that altitude earlier in the season when you've already put in a ton of minutes is tough.
You took every angle on that one. I don't know whether to go thumbs up or thumbs down.
Well, I can't believe that you went against the regular season for Kansas City. You're the supporter shield guy.
That's true. Thumbs up
So
to
what do you
that.
got?
2 thumbs up.
All right,
to Sporting
I'm keeping
Kansas City.
record of all this, and next show we're going to come back and see who won our thumbs up or thumbs down segment. All right, so stay tuned for that.